Welcome students to our online classes. Myself Ashwini Honkar is going to teach you subject science lesson number 4 metals and non-metals. So students, in our surrounding varieties of materials we can able to see, right? Varieties of materials. So diamond is also a type of material. So what we can say whether it is a metal or non-metal, right? How to identify whether it is metal or non-metal, that all we are going to study in this lesson. With that also, if we will clear the basic concept of metals and non-metals, then it is very easy to us that to understand what are metals and what are non-metals. So already we know that either metal or non-metal, they all are objects, right? They all are objects and they are made with the atoms. They are made with the atoms. So as it is a basic concept, let us clear the basic concepts of atom. Then from atom to the metal, it is a journey and we will cover that journey. Then we will study about the metals and non-metals and their properties. Okay, then let us start about the atoms. So, as we already know that metals are those which anything that occupies a space and have some mass. They are occupy some space or they have some mass. They are called as a atom. They are called as what? Atom. And who given this concept? John Dalton. Who given? Scientist John Dalton. So something history we given about John Dalton, where he took birth and when he died, he when he got the awards and why he is famous, that all information is given. So what we can say that he is famous, he's a great scientist John Dalton, and he is very famous for his atomic theory. He given atomic theory. Okay, then what he said that all matters, whatever things are exist in our surrounding, they all are made up with a small unit called as a atom. They are called as a atom. What is said, in our surrounding whatever matters are there, that all made up with a small particles called as a atom. So by his invention, by his theory, some other scientists try to invent, try to give the structure of it atoms. Many scientists worked on it, and a little bit or a powerfully Neil Bohr is successfully given the structure of atom. He given the structure of atom, and what he said that a atom is a particle and it consists of three subatoms. What he said, atom is a particle, it is consist of three subatoms and they are called as a proton, neutron and electron. What they call as proton, neutron and electron. Okay, so what he said, atom, it is a particle and it consists with a, it is made up with a three subatoms. It is made up with a three subatoms. They are proton, neutron and electrons. So let us see how he given the structure of an atom. So see the structure of atom he given, that here the atom is look like this. What he said, atom is look like a circle and here at the center it contain proton and neutron. It contain what? Proton and neutron at the center, and the particles which are the another subparticle which is surrounding this proton and neutron, it is called as a electron. It is called as a what? Electron. Then he said that the circles which we drawn around the proton and neutron, that is called as a nucleus. It is called as a nucleus. They are called as a shells. What they call as they call as a shells. An atom consists may number of shells. They may consist number of shells, and these electrons are moving around these shells. What he said, an atom consists may number of shells, and these electrons are moving around these cells. Then afterwards what he said, then he said what, the sorry, he said what, the nucleus, and that the number of electrons in the outermost orbit determines the properties of an element. So these circles or these rings, they are called as a shells, as well as we will call them as a orbits. What we will call them as orbits. And this is the outermost shell, this is the outermost orbit of this atom, and whatever electrons present on this atom, they are showing the properties of this atom. What is said, whatever electrons are moving in this last orbit, they are showing the properties of this atom. So how? So this last shell or last orbit, we given the special name, it is called as a valence orbit. What it is called as a valence orbit. So how we will define the valence orbit? The outermost orbit shell, the outermost orbital shell of an atom is called as a valence shell. The outermost orbital shell of an atom is called as a valence shell, and the electrons are moving on this shell are called as a valence electrons. What they call as, the electrons moving on this shell are called as a valence electrons. And what is valency? Valency, the valence or valency of an element is measured of its combining power with the other atom when it forms chemical compound or a molecule. And what it means? So what will happen? The elements may combine with each other. For example, hydrogen combined with the oxygen gives you molecules of water, right? It will give you molecule of water. Carbon combined with oxygen give you carbon dioxide. So these are the chemical reaction. What will happen here? Here carbon is a type of molecule, oxygen is also a type of molecule, then it will combine and gives a new substance, right? And here the hydrogen is also a molecule, oxygen is also a molecule, and it will give a water molecule, which is a new substance, right? So what they said, the valency of an element is measure of its combining power, how much it is going to be combined with the other atoms when it forms chemical compound or a molecule. So its valency depends upon its combining power with the other atom or other molecule. So valency depends upon the valence electrons. The limit of valence electron is up to 8. So what is 8? Then let me tell you that when we will see this orbit, or when we will take this atom, see, this is the first orbit. Yes, this is the first orbit. This is second orbit. This is the third orbit, right? So how many electrons we can say that they are moving around these orbits? So the capacity of electron is up to 8. The capacity of electron is up to 8. And we given the names to these orbits. What names we given? The first orbit we can given the number 1, second is 2, third is 4, 3, fourth is 4, like this. It may up to any number, but the limit of electrons is up to 8. The last valence shell or the last valence orbit, how many electrons may be there? There is up to 8. It is up to 8. It is the limit of that orbit. Okay, then now if the electron numbers are 1, 2, or 3, then these are called as a metals. If the outermost orbit contain the electrons 1, 2, or 3, then we are measuring them in terms of positive ions and they are called as a metals. Now you understood. I hope you understood why I took the atom and ions and valence electrons, because in the metal lesson, right? So if the valency electrons or valence electrons in the number of 1, 2, or 3, then we are measuring them in terms of positive ions and they are called as a metals, right? Then if the last orbit or valence orbit contain the electrons of number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then we are subtracting the number of electron in 8. Why 8? Because 8 is the limit of this orbit. 8 is the limit of 8 is the limit of electrons in the last orbit. So we are subtracting the number of particular electron in the 8. Then what we will get? If 4 electrons are there, then 8 minus 4, it is minus 4, right? Then 8 minus 5, it is minus 5. So we are measuring them in terms of negative ions, right? So 8 minus 6, that is of minus 2, 8 minus 7, that is minus 1, and 8 minus 8, that is 0, right? That is 0. And this 0, the elements which contain 0, they are called as a stable. They are called as a stable ions. Okay, so what is stable ions? Because before that, let us know about the positive ions. Just now we discussed about the metals and we said what? Metals are those which contain positive ions, right? Metals are those which contains positive ions and they always try to lose the electrons. What they will do? They will always lose the electrons. And non-metals are those, they are ready to give the ready to take the electrons because they contain negative ions. They are ready to take the electrons. And stable gases are those, they are sitting nicely, they will not give the electrons, not take the electrons. That's why we will call them stable electrons or stable atoms. Or these atoms not involved in any chemical reactions. Atoms, the stable atoms are never involved in any chemical reactions because their valency is 0. Now, just now we discussed about the metals and non-metals. Let us see the table. In the table, that what is the difference between metals and non-metals. The valence electrons are contains how much? 1 or 2 or 3. And in non-metals, the valence electrons are 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. The metals are, they lose the electrons, they are ready to lose the electrons. And non-metals, they always gain the electrons, right? And they have positive valencies. Metals have a positive valencies and the non-metals have negative valencies, because we are subtracting the number of electrons in 8 and we will get the answer in minus 4, minus 2, minus 3, minus 1 and 0. And when the valency is 0, that atom is called as a stable atom. What we will call it as? Stable atom. So, the periodic table is not for you, but then also let me introduce you with a periodic table. So, these are called as a stable, or we can say them as a noble gases. They will not react with anyone. Yes, they are constantly sitting and they will not react with anyone because their valency is 0. Their valency is 0. Now, let us discuss the valency chart. Yes, this is the valency chart. Here, we given the names of positive ions, means metals, right? Sorry, these are positive ions, we are calling them as a cations, we will call them as cations, and these are negative ions, we will call them as a anions. Okay, so in this, if we will see hydrogen, its valency is plus 1. Why plus 1? Because it contains only H plus. If no number is there, means its valency is 1. If you take sodium, its valency is also 1. Silver, 1. Potassium, 1. Lithium, 1. So like this, if you take barium, its valency is 2. What is its valency? 2. And if you take aluminium, its valency is 3. What we can say? It is 3. Now if you come to the cations, then if you take a chloride, its valency is minus 1. What is its valency? It is minus 1. If you take oxides, then its valency is minus 2. If you take uh, hydrogen carbonate, its valency is minus 1. Now here we can see that almost all they are atoms, right? They are atoms. But here two substances are there. If you take hydroxide, here oxygen is also there and hydrogen is also there, right? So these are called as a radicals. What we will call them as radicals. So radicals means complex ion. What we can say? Radicals are complex ion. If the atom consists of more than one ion, then it is called as a radicals. So here zinc, it is a single, iron, it is single. So how to identify whether it is a single atom or a two atom or a group of atom? Because when we will take single atom, it may consist a capital letter. It may consist capital letter. First one is always capital letter and second one is a small letter. If it contain two alphabets, the second one is small letter. But if you take the hydroxide, here both are capital letters, right? Here the both are capital letters, means it contains two atoms. How many atoms? Two atoms. So if you take here hydrogen carbonate, here all are capital. See, means how many are there? Three atoms are there. Hydrogen, carbon and oxygen, right? Hydrogen, carbon and oxygen. So here let me see the radicals. Which are those? First one is hydroxide, then nitrate, then sulfate, then carbonate, then hydrogen carbonate. So these are called as a radicals. Yes, these are called as a radicals. So if you see this side, ammonium, it is also a type of radical. Okay, so I hope you understood how to identify the radical and how to identify the atom. Now I think you all understood about the electrons, protons, neutrons and the structure of atom and the how valency shell, valency electron we can say, we can, I hope you all understood, right? So let us move towards the metal. So what are metals? Metals are opaque, lustrous elements that are good conductors of heat and electricity. What we can say? Metals are opaque, lustrous element that are good conductors of heat and electricity. Then what is opaque? Opaque are that substance which cannot pass through light through them, which cannot pass light through them, right? Then lustrous, lustrous means shining. Lustrous means what? Shiny materials. Yes, then they are good conductors of heat. They can able to conduct the heat and light very easily. So metals are those which are opaque, lustrous elements that are good conductors of heat and electricity. So now we are going to study some physical properties of metals. Now physical and chemical, these are two types of properties. Physical and chemical. So what are the difference between physical and chemical? Physical properties are those properties which we can able to see, which we can able to see. So as if we are human being, how we look like that, how our eyes are there, how our nose is there. So in that way, the physical property means how the substance will be look like. And the chemical properties, there is a particular reactions will be happen, it may combine with any other substance and it may form a new substance. So that is chemical reactions. For example, in your home, if you mix the milk with a small amount of curd, it will convert in the form of curd. So these are called as a chemical reactions. So these are two types of reaction properties. One is physical property, another one is a chemical property. So let us start with the physical properties. In that, first one is malleability. So malleability is the property when we beat that particular metal, it may convert in the form of sheets. It may convert in the form of sheets. So you can able to see here, gold foil is there, silver foil is there. So what happened here, we beaten this, no, we beaten this metal and it will convert in the form of thin sheet, right? So examples are aluminium, copper. I wish aluminium foil is there in your home. Your mama is using it to wrap the food, right? And here, highly malleable means we can make them very thin sheets. We can convert them in the very thin sheets. That's why we will call them as highly malleable. Which metals are those? That is gold and silver. That's why we are using gold and silver as a ornaments. Even they are shiny, So now, why what we can say? The silver foil used for decorating sweets and the aluminium foil used for wrapping food also possible. Also possible malleability property of metals, because of malleability property of metals. So which foils we are using in our home? That is aluminium foil. And which foils we are using in decorating the sweets and all? That is silver foils. So here some metals are there which we can't make them as a sheets. So let us see which are those. These are called as a alkali metals. These are called as a what? Alkali metals. These alkali metals we can't convert them in the form of sheets. Why? Because so we can't convert them as a thin sheets. Which metals are there? Here I written Na. Na means sodium. K. K means potassium. Li. Li means lithium. Cs. Cs means cesium. So these are the metals. They are maybe or may not be in solid form. So now take an example of that sodium. Sodium is a powder form. Sodium is present in powder form. So powder we can't convert in a sheets, right? Even potassium, it is also present in a powder form, right? So a moist powder, when we will take a powder which is moist in our hand, the potassium is look like this, a moist powder. Yes, so like this, these four metals are there which we can't convert them as a malleable. They are not showing the property of malleability. So these all are exceptional cases in the properties of metal. Except what? Sodium, potassium, lithium and cesium. We can't convert them into thin sheets. Why? Because they are highly reactive with the air. They are very highly reactive with air. The next property is conductivity. So what is conductivity? It is the capacity to conduct the electricity or heat. The conductivity means it is the capacity of conducting heat or electricity. So metals are always good conductors of heat and electricity. Metals are always a good conductors of heat and electricity. Now the iron rod, iron nail, copper wire, so these are very good conductors of heat and electricity. in that also exception is there. So what is exception? A poor conductors, some elements, some metals are there which are poor conductors of heat and electricity. What are those? Lead, which is you are using in your pencil, that is also type of metal. And bismuth, tungsten. So I think you all are familiar, right? What bulbs you are using in your home that contain the wire, that is called as a tungsten. Yes, it is also a poor conductor of heat and electricity. So why we considered, so let us see the diagram. Here it is the lead. This is the picture of lead. This is bismuth, and this is called as a tungsten. So you you can able to see here the picture over here how the lead we can able to see, and after that it will be convert, it will be take in the use of pencil. This is bismuth. So you can see the metals, these metals can't show malleability also, right? And even the tungsten is solid, but it is a poor conductor of heat and electricity. Why? Because when we pass the electricity into the tungsten, it will convert it in the form of heat and light. Whenever we pass the electricity in the tungsten, it will convert in the form of heat and light. So that's why we will consider the tungsten as a poor conductor of heat and electricity. Sorry. Next property is ductility. What is the next property? That is ductility. So ductility means what? Whenever we will beat whenever we will beat the metal, it may convert in the form of wires. It may convert in the form of wires. So you can see the example over here: aluminum wire, copper wire, right? So what we did, we are beaten that metal, and it may convert in the form of wires. So that is the property called as a ductility. Don't confuse. Malleability is the property when we beat the metal, it will convert in the form of sheets. And ductility is the property when we beat the metal, it may convert in the form of wires. So aluminum and copper wires are used in electric connection. So which wires we are using? These are the metals, aluminum and copper, we are using in electric connection. In this also one exception case is there. Some metals are non-ductile. Means we can't convert them in the form of wires. Which are those? Zinc, arsenic, antimony, because they are not that much strong. So you can able to see here some different materials, some different metals, but these metals we can't convert them in the form of wires, right? Now the next property is sonorousness. Sonorous means it is the property when we beat the metal, it produces some amount of sound. When we beat the metal, it produces some amount of sound. Like for example, copper, aluminum. You may see the bells which are there in the temples. So that is also made with the metal, right? So this is a property of metal. It is called as a sonorousness. It is called as a sonorousness. And another main thing is sonorous of the substance depends upon the temperature and density. Means it may depends on temperature and density. Density means mass of the particular substance. It is the mass of particular substance. Now the next property is lustrous. Lustrous, just now we discussed that lustrous means shiny. So metals are those which show the property of lustrous, means they shine. They are showing the shine because their structure are capable of reflecting the incident light. The structure of metals are capable of reflecting the incident light. For example, gold and silver. You can see how they are very shiny, right? These are gold and silver. They are showing the property of lustrous, and this property is very useful in making the ornaments. Metals like sodium and potassium, just now we discussed the metal like sodium and potassium are soft. The metal like sodium and potassium are soft, and they are not showing the property of lustrous. Which are those? Metal, sodium and potassium. Just now we shown the elements that Na is indicating by sodium. Sodium is indicate with the Na, and potassium will be indicate with K, right? It will be indicate with K. And why sodium we not showing the lustrous property? Because it is very soft metal, and we may cut that sodium with knife also. It is that much soft, and it is not shiny. And even the potassium is in powder form, right? So it is also not lustrous. If you take mercury, mercury is the only metal which is found in the liquid state at the room temperature. So it is the main property that mercury, which we are know that it is present in the thermometer, right? Mercury which is present in thermometer, that is in a liquid form. You can able to see here, this is mercury, right? This is mercury, and it is in liquid form. It is in liquid form at the room temperature. Now the next property is hardness. So already we all are familiar, whatever metals are there in your home, they are very hard, right? They are very hard. Due to ductility and malleability property, metals are hard. What we can say, if they are hard, then only we can convert them in the form of sheets as well as wires. Now, as again the sodium is soft metal, we can cut them with a knife, so we can't say that it is a hard metal. So these are exceptional cases in property of the metal, that potassium is a powder metal, hence they are non-ductile. Now you can say this is the sodium powder, right? It is the sodium powder and aluminium copper. These are the wires. These are very hard metals, so we can convert them in the form of wires. Now, the next property is high melting point and high boiling point. As the metals are very hard, they have a ductility and malleability property. They have a fixed melting point and fixed boiling point. Okay, and that boiling point and melting point is very high. It is very high. Again, exception is there here, that sodium, potassium, and Ga means gallium, and Cm means calcium. So these are the metals which are showing low melting point and low boiling point. Because what they contain, low melting point and low boiling point. Now the metals, the next property is metals are solid at room temperature. What it is? The metals are solid at room temperature. So almost all metals are solid at room temperature. Again, exception is there, that mercury and gallium. These are the two metals which are in the liquid state. These are the two metals. Now you can see here, this is the structure of gallium. This is the picture of gallium, and this is the picture of mercury. You can able to see here how these metals are in liquid state. Now the next property is a high tensile strength. High tensile strength means it is a capability of that particular metal to tolerate the heating. To tolerate the heating means the those metals which can bear, with bear means they can tolerate the strain, or the term into high tensile strength. So how much you are going to beat, that much it can be tolerate. So that property is called as a, that property is called as a high tensile strength. So except which? Zinc, except zinc and antimony. So these are the metals. Here it is a zinc and it is the antimony. You can see the picture how they look like, right? So I hope you understood all the properties of metals. Now we are going to move towards the non-metals. So non-metals are fully opposite to the metals, right? Which are showing the properties of metals. Those so directly opposite properties are showing by non-metals. So we can say that those materials which do not possesses the characteristics of metals are termed as a non-metals, right? So first property is what will happen. It is there. It is a malleable, and here we what we can say, they are non-malleable, right? So, what we can say, non-metals are those which cannot be converted in the form of sheets. So, they are non-malleable as they are brittle. As metals are, non-metals are brittle. So, except diamond, if you see, almost non-metals are in either powders form or in liquid form. Yes, they are in either powder form, or even though if they are solid, but they are brittle, means they are porous, somehow they are light in weight, and they are in liquid stage, or maybe non-metals are in gaseous stage also. So conductivity, as the metals are good conductors of heat, no doubt non-metals are poor conductors of heat and electricity, because they not contain any free electrons. It's because of no free electrons are present. So, except graphite, another one exception is there, except graphite. Why? Graphite is a allotrope of carbon because of its special crystalline structure. It is very good conductor of electricity. So, graphite is a allotrope. Allotrope means it is extracted by the carbon. Allotrope means what? It is extracted by the atom of carbon. So that's why it is showing a crystalline, it's showing a nice crystalline structure. Because of that, it is a very good conductor of heat and electricity. Now you can able to see here how the graphite looks like, right? Now next is ductility. As metals are very good showing the ductility property, they are non-ductile. Non-metals are non-ductile because they are brittle. Brittle means moist powder, or they are present in powder form. So this is the sulfur powder. You can able to see here, this is the sulfur powder, and this is phosphorus. This is phosphorus. So we can't convert them in the form of wires. Now the next property is sonorous, means they are not shiny. Even the non-metals are not shiny. You can see the sulfur powder, phosphorus here. They right. So they are not shiny. So the next, sorry, sonorous means they can't produce sound. Sonorous means what? They can't produce sound. By mistakenly I said sonorous means they can't produce sound. And metals are, sorry, non-metals are non-lustrous, means now here we can say they are not shiny. They are present in solid, but they are brittle, and they may present in powder form. So non-metals present in powder form or gaseous form, hence they can't be polished, therefore they are non-lustrous. Here one exception is there, that is iodine, graphite are lustrous. These are the two non-metals which are n- which are lustrous, means they are showing shine. Now, as metals are that much hard, non-metals are soft. As non-metals are brittle, they are soft. Exception case is there again, because of special structure of diamond. It is very hard. Because of special structure of this diamond, you can able to see the diamond and how it is reflecting the light, right? So just now we said that how when the metals will be shiny when they reflect the light, right? So the diamond is the only non-metal which will able to reflect the light. That's why it is very hard metal, and it is showing the property of lustrous also. Now again, the next property, non-metals are present in the form of solid, liquid or gaseous in room temperature. If you compare it to the metal, almost all metals are in solid state. Only one or two are there, they are present in liquid form. But in non-metals, the non-metals may be in solid maybe in liquid or maybe in gaseous form in the room temperature. So in that solid are those which are phosphorus and sulfur. So it is a picture of sulfur powder, and liquid is that is bromium powder. You can able to see the picture is there. It is a non-metal called as a bromium, and gaseous form, that is nitrogen and oxygen. These are the non-metals. Now, next property of non-metal is low melting point. As they are brittle, as they are non-malleable, as they are non-ductile, they have a low melting point. Except which one? Diamond, because it is hard, right? Next, low tensile means they can't tolerate the beating, right? As non-metals are brittle, they have a low tensile strength. They have a low tensile strength. So, we arranged all these physical properties in a table. I hope you can able to understand all these properties in this table. Now, we are going to study the chemical properties of metals and non-metals. So, let us see the chemical properties one by one. First of all, we are going to see the chemical property of metal with the oxygen. Metal with the oxygen. So, generally, whenever metals react with the oxygen, metals react with the oxygen, they produce oxides. They produce what? Oxides. Metallic oxides. They produce what? Metallic oxides. What we can say, generally when metals are react, generally metals are react with the oxygen, they will form metallic oxides, and these metallic oxides are basic in nature. They are not acidic, they are basic in nature, right? Then if you take one example, if iron, so we know the reaction of rusting, right? Rusting, what will happen in the process of rusting? When we throw the iron in a most moist climate, it will react with the oxygen and water, and it will convert in the form of rust, right? So that rusting is what? It is called as a iron oxide. It is called as a iron oxide, right? So if you take the copper, copper is react with the water and carbon dioxide and oxygen in the nature, so it will may convert in the form of copper hydroxide, copper oxide. It may convert in the form of copper oxide. So now let us study. We said that the metals, when they convert in the form of oxide, they are basic in nature. They are basic in nature. So take some amount of rusted material, remove the rust from it, and take a spoonful of rust and dissolve it in very little amount of water. Now dissolve it properly and take that water and test with the red litmus paper. So this will be convert as a blue. Yes, this will be convert as a blue. Now, if we will take that reaction of non-metals with oxygen, oxygen, they react with the oxygen. Generally, non-metals also produce oxides when react with the oxygen, but in contrast of to metals, these oxides are acidic in nature. So, metals react with the oxygen, they will produce metal oxides, and non-metals react with oxygen, they produce non-metal oxides. But only the thing, metal when reacts, their nature will be basic, but in non-metals when they react, the solution will be acidic in nature. So again you may check that with the help of blue litmus paper, it will turn as a red. Yes. So if we will take test for this, take a small amount of powdered sulfur in a deflagrating spoon and then heat it. As soon as the sulfur starts burning, introduce the spoon into the gas jar glass tumbler. Yes, this is a gas tumbler. Now we are going to put sulfur here in this amount and we are going to start heat it. Right. Cover the tumbler with a lid to ensure that the gas produces does not escape. So we are going to pack it properly and we are going to prepare the sulfur gas. So that gas we are going to test with the blue litmus paper and then it will be convert in the form of red. So what it indicates, that it will produce sulfur oxide, which is acidic in nature. Or we may say that when it will be mixed with the water, it will produce sulfuric acid. It will produce sulfuric acid. When that sulfur dioxide will be produced, that will mix with the water, it will produce sulfuric acid. So next we are going to study reaction with water. Just now we completed reaction with oxygen. Now we are going to study the reaction of metals with water. So whenever metals react with the water, they produce metal hydroxides. What they produce? Metal hydroxides and hydrogen. What they produce? Metal hydroxide and hydrogen. So similarly, when non-metals react with the water, no reaction will be happen. Why? Because most non-metals do not react with the water, but there are some non-metals which are quite reactive in air, like phosphorus, which is very reactive and it is kept in a water to prevent explosion. Because the non-metals not react with the water because they not contain free electrons, right? They not contain free electrons, and only few non-metals are those which are very highly reactive. We can say they are highly reactive. Whenever we will conduct some reactions, they involve in that reaction. Now the next property, reaction of metal with acids. Reaction of metal with acids. So now we are going to conduct an practical over here. We will take some metals and we will take some amount of acid in this container. We will put this acid uh, in metal in this acid, and when the metal will be goes inside the acid, the bubble starts to come. The bubble starts to escape from this acid, and just take a flame in front of this, it will produce the pop-up sounds. It will produce what? Pop sounds. Means what? The presence of hydrogen. It indicates what? The presence of hydrogen. The presence of hydrogen gas is confirmed by bringing a burning matchstick or a candle near the gas, and when the burning matchstick or a candle produce pop sounds, then it means that hydrogen gas has evolved. So what it indicates? Hydrogen gas has evolved. It is found that copper does not react with the hydrochloric acid while it reacts with the sulfuric acid. It indicates it will react with the hydrochloric. It will not react with the hydrochloric acid, but it will react with the sulfuric acid. So generally, again, the non-metals are not react with the acid. This is the thing. Metals react with the acid, but non-metals not react with the acid. Now reaction with the bases. Just now we discussed about the acids. Now reaction with the bases, that is, when metals react with the bases, it will produce that particular salt. It will produce what? Particular salt and hydrogen gas. Suppose aluminium react with the sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is a base and it will produce sodium aluminate, which is a salt of sodium. It will produce sodium aluminate and hydrogen will be released. So most of the time, reaction, when metals react with a base, it will produce a salt of that particular metal. And again, the non-metals not react with the bases. Generally, non-metals not react with bases. Now we are going to study about displacement reaction. So what is displacement reaction? So what we are going to do, when if a container contain some substance and we want to put another substance, right? So we are going to take that substance from that container and we will fill it up with a second one. So in chemicals also it will happen. It will happen. So that is nothing but displacement reaction. So what will happen in displacement reaction? During the reaction, if a metal replaces another metal, so what will happen? A metal reacts with a metal. A metal reacts with the another metal oxides. It will react with the metal oxides and it will take the place of that metal, and this will be released out. This will be released out. So this is called as a displacement reaction. Just see, when during the reaction, if a metal replaces another metal from its compound, then such reactions are called as a displacement reactions. Metals can actually be arranged as per their reactivity order. So what is reactivity order? See here, here these are the metals and non-metals. Yes, these are the, now you can see the sodium, potassium is a metal, sodium is a metal. Here the potassium is very reactive. Non sodium is less than potassium but more than calcium. Mg means magnesium, aluminium, zinc, iron. Yes, so these are the metals. If you say the arrow indicates what? It is reactive. Potassium is more reactive and hydrogen is less reactive. So this is the reactive chart. And if you see copper, mercury, then silver, then in that copper is very less reactive. So this is continued. This chart is continued with this up to platinum. They are very less reactive. So, for example, when zinc is react with the copper sulfate solution, so we can say that zinc we are indicate with Zn, and it will react with the copper sulfate CuSO4. So, what will happen here? Zinc replaces the copper from copper sulfate solution and takes its place, and zinc sulfide will be formed. You can see the reaction over here, that is copper sulfate plus zinc forms zinc sulfate and copper will be released out. So this is called as a displacement reaction. Now we are going to see the applications. What is the uses of metal? What are the uses where we are using? See, metals are generally used in making the machines, automobiles, aeroplanes, cars, satellites, etc. And some metals are used in making wires like copper, and even thin sheets we are using, ornaments making we are using. So metals are very useful in all these way. Now the applications of non-metals, where we are using the non-metals. The oxygen necessary for all living beings to survive in an survive, as it is a non-metal. Some non-metals are used as a fertilizers, right? It is very important for some crops. Some non-metals are used for water purification. Yes, then some non-metals are used as a antiseptic, and non-metals are used in a crackers also. So these are the applications of metals and non-metals. So we just arranged these all reaction in a table form. I hope you can understand very easily with this table form. So this is the table of chemical properties of metals and non-metals. It will react with the oxygen, when it will react bases, when it will be react with the acids. So this all is mentioned. Yes, so I hope you can understand. Thank you.